New allegations this morning, just hours after the talk show host apologized in that emotional letter to her staff addressing allegations of a toxic work environment and the production studio's investigation.
Hollywood rarely turns against its biggest stars, yet Rob Schneider has ignited a firestorm by publicly questioning Ellen DeGeneres' carefully crafted reputation. His explosive remarks have revived years of controversy, prompting renewed scrutiny over allegations, old interviews, and stories many believed had already faded away. Supporters insist the accusations are unfair, while critics argue they confirm long-standing suspicions.
Summer, there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show, and then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened.
About what happened behind closed doors. As fresh debate spreads across Hollywood, is this the moment Ellen's legacy faces its toughest challenge yet? Hollywood's carefully built mask cracks. Rob Schneider unexpectedly became the center of Hollywood's latest controversy after openly criticizing Ellen DeGeneres during a widely discussed interview. His remarks were direct, unapologetic, and impossible for entertainment media to ignore. Instead of fading like countless celebrity opinions before them, his comments spread quickly across television, online platforms, and social media, reigniting debates many believed had already reached their conclusion. Almost overnight, conversations about Ellen's public reputation returned to the spotlight with renewed intensity, drawing attention from longtime critics, supporters, and curious viewers alike. For years, Ellen had built a public image around kindness, generosity, and positivity. Her daytime television success depended not only on celebrity interviews and giveaways, but also on the belief that she genuinely reflected the warm personality audiences watched every afternoon. That image had already faced serious challenges after former employees described what they believed was a toxic workplace environment. Although those allegations had dominated headlines before, public attention gradually shifted elsewhere, allowing the controversy to cool. Schneider's decision to revisit those issues changed the atmosphere almost immediately. His criticism arrived at a time when audiences seemed more willing to reconsider stories involving powerful entertainment figures. Rather than presenting his views cautiously, he questioned whether Ellen's carefully maintained reputation had ever reflected reality. Those statements quickly became headline news because they echoed concerns already familiar to many viewers, while introducing them to a new generation of audiences who had not closely followed the earlier controversy. Hollywood reacted almost instantly. News programs, entertainment commentators, podcasts, and social media personalities all began revisiting old interviews, previous accusations, and widely shared viral moments connected to Ellen. Some defended her accomplishments and argued that years of charitable work should not be forgotten. Others believed Schneider had simply voiced questions that many people had quietly discussed for years. The divide became increasingly obvious as public opinion split once again between loyalty and skepticism. What made this moment different was not necessarily the accusations themselves, but the environment surrounding them. Celebrity accountability had become a far more prominent topic than it had been several years earlier. Audiences now examined public figures with greater scrutiny, and stories once dismissed as isolated incidents often received another look through a completely different perspective. Schneider's comments, therefore, carried more weight because they arrived during a broader cultural shift involving transparency and responsibility. Whether his statements ultimately change Ellen's legacy remains uncertain. They do, however, reopen uncomfortable questions about image, influence, and trust inside Hollywood. As more voices enter the conversation, the debate grows larger than one interview, suggesting this controversy may be entering an entirely new chapter, with no clear ending yet. If those moments were only the beginning, what finally pushed whispers into headlines? Who else was quietly watching everything unfold? And when Rob connected the dots, did an even deeper story emerge that nobody expected before the spotlight shifted again? Let's find out. When kindness facade finally fractured. Long before Rob Schneider publicly criticized Ellen DeGeneres, small moments had already begun raising difficult questions about the television personality millions admired. At first, those moments seemed isolated, easily dismissed as misunderstandings or awkward exchanges. Yet over time, they formed a pattern that many viewers found increasingly difficult to ignore. Schneider's comments did not create those doubts. Instead, they encouraged audiences to revisit incidents that had quietly lingered beneath the surface for years, giving older stories fresh attention and renewed significance across Hollywood. One event stood above the rest. Ellen's interview with actress Dakota Johnson unexpectedly became one of the most talked-about television moments of her career. During the conversation, Ellen joked that Dakota had failed to invite her to a birthday party. Instead of laughing along, Dakota calmly replied that an invitation had actually been sent. The unexpected correction instantly changed the atmosphere. What appeared to be harmless comedy suddenly felt uncomfortable, and the clip quickly spread across social media, where millions watched it repeatedly from different perspectives. For some viewers, the exchange revealed nothing more than an awkward misunderstanding between two celebrities. Others believed it exposed a side of Ellen that rarely appeared when everything was carefully controlled. As the interview continued circulating online, public discussion expanded beyond that single conversation. People began revisiting earlier encounters, searching for additional moments that seemed different when viewed through the lens of growing criticism. Soon, former employees also started speaking publicly about their experiences behind the scenes. Their accounts described a workplace that differed sharply from the cheerful environment audiences believed existed. While not every allegation could be independently verified, the number of similar stories attracted widespread attention. Each new account added another layer to an already growing controversy, making it increasingly difficult for many observers to dismiss everything as coincidence. Entertainment journalists quickly noticed the shift. Reports no longer focused only on isolated incidents, but instead explored whether those events reflected a broader pattern. Public conversation moved away from one uncomfortable interview toward larger questions about leadership, workplace culture, and the gap between public image and private behavior. Supporters argued Ellen deserved fairness and reminded audiences of her years of success and generosity. Critics responded that consistent allegations from multiple voices deserved serious consideration rather than immediate dismissal. This changing atmosphere helps explain why Schneider's remarks resonated so strongly. His criticism arrived after years of growing public uncertainty, not before it. Instead of introducing an unfamiliar accusation, he reinforced concerns already circulating across entertainment circles. Whether those concerns ultimately define Ellen's legacy remains open to debate. But the growing collection of interviews, employee accounts, and public reactions suggested that the conversation had evolved into something far larger than one viral television moment alone. Hollywood's silence is finally cracking. But what happens when more voices step forward with stories that challenge the image everyone knew? Are hidden conversations about Ellen about to surface? And could the next revelation change how this controversy is viewed forever? Keep watching. Silence across Hollywood finally ends. Rob Schneider's criticism no longer stood alone. What began as one celebrity openly questioning Ellen DeGeneres quickly expanded into a much broader conversation involving journalists, comedians, former television employees, and entertainment commentators. Instead of fading after a single interview, the discussion gathered momentum as more public figures revisited long-standing concerns surrounding Ellen's reputation. The spotlight was no longer focused only on what Schneider had said. It shifted toward why so many others now appeared comfortable speaking about subjects that had once been largely avoided. Among the most outspoken voices was Megyn Kelly, who argued that Ellen's public response to the controversy failed to address what many critics believed was the central issue. Kelly questioned whether Ellen had genuinely accepted responsibility for the workplace allegations or simply portrayed herself as another victim of public backlash. Her remarks attracted widespread attention because they echoed frustrations already shared across social media, where viewers continued debating whether Ellen's explanations matched the seriousness of the accusations. The discussion soon reached beyond traditional news programs. Podcasts, online commentators, and entertainment channels began revisiting earlier interviews, employee accounts, and media reports that had gradually disappeared from daily headlines. Rather than introducing entirely new accusations, many focused on examining how previous events fit together. Some argued that the pattern deserved closer attention, while others warned against treating speculation as an established fact. That disagreement became an important part of the story itself, keeping the controversy active instead of allowing it to fade. Questions surrounding Ellen's apology also returned. After the workplace investigation became public, she acknowledged that people had been hurt and accepted responsibility for what happened on her show. However, critics argued that those statements felt incomplete because they believed they lacked meaningful accountability. Supporters disagreed, saying no public apology would ever satisfy everyone once public opinion had already turned. The divide demonstrated how differently audiences interpreted the same events depending on their own perspectives. At the same time, Hollywood itself appeared to be changing. Stories that might once have remained behind closed doors were now receiving greater attention from both the media and the public. Powerful figures across the entertainment industry increasingly faced questions about workplace culture, leadership, and personal conduct. In that environment, Schneider's remarks seemed less like an isolated opinion and more like another example of a larger shift taking place throughout the industry. Whether that shift represents lasting accountability or simply another cycle of celebrity controversy remains uncertain. What cannot be ignored is that far more voices have entered the conversation than before. As commentators continue examining Ellen's career through this evolving lens, the debate grows beyond individual accusations and becomes part of a wider discussion about influence, responsibility, and the lasting consequences of public trust within Hollywood's powerful entertainment world today. Yet Ellen's comeback only deepened the mystery surrounding her public image and past controversies. Did the special reveal a true transformation, or was it a carefully crafted return? Could critics uncover something that changes how audiences view her forever? And what shocking twist comes next? Stay glued. Comeback sparked fiercer public backlash. Ellen DeGeneres hoped her return to stand-up comedy would mark a fresh beginning, but it quickly became another source of intense debate across Hollywood. Instead of closing the chapter on earlier controversies, her Netflix special encouraged audiences, critics, and media personalities to revisit the same questions that had surrounded her for years. Many expected the performance to acknowledge past events with honesty and reflection. Instead, viewers found themselves arguing over whether the special represented accountability or an attempt to reshape the public narrative. That disagreement soon became almost as significant as the performance itself. Throughout the special, Ellen addressed the backlash she had faced following allegations about the workplace culture on her daytime talk show. She joked about being labeled mean and referred to losing her place in the entertainment industry. While some audience members appreciated her willingness to discuss the controversy openly, others believed humor distracted from the more serious issues raised by former employees. The contrast between those reactions immediately divided public opinion once again. Megyn Kelly became one of the most vocal critics. She argued that Ellen appeared to present herself as the victim rather than someone accepting responsibility for what had happened. Kelly questioned how someone with enormous success, financial security, and continued access to major entertainment platforms could claim to have been pushed out of Hollywood. Her comments echoed a wider frustration among critics, who believed the comeback focused more on Ellen's personal struggles than on those who said they had experienced a difficult workplace environment. Supporters viewed the situation differently. They argued that everyone deserves an opportunity to move forward after acknowledging mistakes. Some believed Ellen had already apologized publicly and should not remain permanently defined by one period of controversy. Others pointed out that public forgiveness is often inconsistent, especially for high-profile celebrities whose every word receives intense scrutiny. Those competing viewpoints kept the discussion active instead of allowing the story to fade. Rob Schneider also questioned whether genuine humility had been shown, suggesting that true reconciliation requires more than public appearances or carefully written material. His criticism reinforced the growing perception among some observers that rebuilding trust depends on convincing actions rather than emotional performances. Even people who disagreed with Schneider acknowledged that his remarks had intensified an already complicated conversation. As debates continued across television, podcasts, and social media, Ellen's attempted comeback became another chapter in an unresolved public story. Rather than restoring her reputation, it encouraged audiences to examine the past once again through a different lens. Whether history will eventually remember the special as the beginning of redemption or another missed opportunity remains uncertain, but it clearly demonstrated that public trust, once shaken, is far more difficult to rebuild than many expected. As old clips resurface, could forgotten moments reveal a deeper pattern? Are these celebrity encounters being viewed differently for a reason? And what hidden connections might emerge next? The past is speaking louder than ever, but what will the next revelation uncover from this hidden mystery now? Stay with us. Hidden moments gain new meaning. As Rob Schneider's remarks continued dominating entertainment headlines, audiences began revisiting moments from Ellen DeGeneres' past that once seemed ordinary but now appeared far more complicated. Clips that had circulated for years suddenly returned across social media, where viewers watched them with fresh eyes. Conversations shifted away from Schneider himself and toward a broader examination of Ellen's interactions with guests, colleagues, and employees. The growing debate suggested that public memory had changed, transforming familiar television moments into subjects of renewed scrutiny and discussion. One interview repeatedly resurfaced above all others. In 2008, singer Mariah Carey appeared on Ellen's daytime show while pregnancy rumors surrounded her. During the interview, Ellen repeatedly pressed Mariah about those rumors and even offered her a drink, implying that refusing it would reveal the truth. Mariah appeared visibly uncomfortable and repeatedly avoided confirming anything publicly. At the time, many viewers accepted the exchange as playful daytime television. Years later, however, the clip returned with an entirely different reputation. The interview drew even more attention after Mariah later revealed she had avoided announcing her pregnancy because of previous miscarriages. She suffered another miscarriage after the appearance, leading many viewers to reconsider the emotional pressure she may have faced. As older interview clips resurfaced online, critics argued they reflected a broader pattern of uncomfortable interactions. While none alone proved misconduct, they raised growing questions about whether Ellen's public image matched her behavior behind the scenes. At the same time, former workplace allegations remained part of the conversation. Accounts from employees describing an unhealthy work environment were repeatedly shared alongside these older interviews, creating stronger connections in the minds of many viewers. Although individual claims differed, and not every allegation could be independently verified, their combined effect strengthened public curiosity. Social media accelerated that process by placing years of separate events into one continuous timeline that millions could examine for themselves. This growing collection of interviews, employee accounts, and public reactions did not settle the debate surrounding Ellen DeGeneres. Instead, it expanded the conversation beyond isolated incidents and encouraged deeper questions about reputation, influence, and accountability. As each resurfaced clip reached new audiences, Rob Schneider's criticism appeared less like the beginning of a controversy and more like the catalyst that encouraged people to re-examine a complicated story whose most debated chapters were still unfolding before the public. Years after the spotlight faded, Ellen's next chapter raises bigger questions. Can a Hollywood icon truly rewrite a damaged legacy? Or will past controversies forever define her future? What does this mean for the industry's new standards? And who will ultimately decide Ellen's fate tomorrow? Stay tuned. Final verdict still awaits Hollywood. Rob Schneider's comments may have reignited the conversation, but they also raised a much larger question that continues hanging over Hollywood. What happens after a public image is shattered? And can years of success outweigh years of controversy? As attention slowly shifted away from individual interviews and headlines, the focus turned toward Ellen DeGeneres herself and the uncertain future waiting beyond daytime television. The discussion was no longer only about past allegations. It became a debate over legacy, redemption, and whether audiences were prepared to embrace another comeback. Since the end of her long-running talk show, Ellen has largely stepped away from the daily spotlight that once defined her career. Reports have described a quieter lifestyle, including spending significant time away from Hollywood with her wife, Portia de Rossi. The move fueled speculation that she was choosing distance from the constant public attention rather than immediately pursuing another major television project. Even so, her name has never completely disappeared from entertainment news, proving how closely the public continues following every development connected to her career. At the same time, reports have suggested that Ellen could eventually return through selected projects, including voice acting work that helped establish another successful part of her career. Those possibilities have encouraged fresh debate over whether audiences are willing to separate professional achievements from personal controversies. Some believe her accomplishments deserve recognition, regardless of past criticism. Others argue that genuine accountability should remain part of any discussion surrounding a possible return. Rob Schneider's remarks continue influencing that conversation because they represent more than one comedian criticizing another public figure. They reflect a growing willingness inside the entertainment industry to revisit stories that once faded without lasting consequences. Whether people agree with Schneider or strongly disagree, his comments succeeded in reopening difficult conversations that many believed had already been settled. That alone demonstrates how much Hollywood has changed during recent years. The broader entertainment landscape now places greater attention on workplace culture, public responsibility, and the difference between carefully managed public images and private experiences described by those working behind the scenes. As expectations evolve, celebrities increasingly face long-term scrutiny rather than temporary controversy. Ellen's situation has become one example within that larger cultural shift, making her story significant beyond her individual career. No one can predict how history will ultimately judge Ellen DeGeneres or whether Hollywood will fully welcome her back into the spotlight. What remains clear is that her legacy is still being written. Every interview revisited, every public statement examined, and every opinion shared continues shaping that legacy. Rob Schneider's criticism may have reopened the debate, but the final verdict belongs to audiences who continue deciding how they remember one of television's most recognizable personalities for years ahead. So, what do you think? Did Rob Schneider's comments expose lasting truths? Or has Ellen DeGeneres been judged too harshly? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.